For regular videos on ancient cultures and forgotten civilizations, please subscribe. The Gulf of Khambat, formerly known as the Gulf of Cambay, is a few hundred kilometers distant from Dwarka. It's sometimes brought into the discussion because there are claims that another submerged settlement was found there. And since it's not that far away from Dwarka, the evidence it provides could have a bearing on the history of Dwarka. In December 2000, the National Institute of Ocean Technology, or NIOT for short, were performing a routine pollution study with sonar when they ran across what appeared to be regularly spaced geometric structures at a depth of about 30 to 40 meters. That's pretty deep. Comments were made at the time that they kind of resembled the ruins of Harappan cities, though initially nothing had been dated. S.R. Rao, who had worked on Dwarka, commented that the only conclusive way of establishing the antiquity of the site would be to study pieces of submerged pottery from the same area.
During the survey, they found buildings made of stones covered in mud and sand covering 5 square miles. Divers collected blocks, samples, artifacts, and copper coins, which scientists believe is the evidence from an age that is about 3,600 years old.
Such a date puts it squarely in the same time period as the earliest ruins of Dwarka. However, the remains found here were not like the remains found at Dwarka. There was no archaeological excavation, and the existence of buildings there has never been confirmed by any pair of human eyes. No photographs of the presumed buildings have ever been taken. All we have are sonar images. Sonar images are not like photographs, and a non-expert like you or me might be fooled into interpreting an image as if it were a perspective snapshot as viewed from a particular vantage point. But the apparent shape of supposed objects in the image depends on the ship's speed, the lateral range of the sonar beam on each side, and the speed of the paper in the printer. As far as I know, none of that data was provided, so the shapes shown on the screen of the scans could very well be coincidental illusion. This may not be all that different from the face of Mars image that NASA took, which led to speculations about a civilization on the Red Planet. One thing that I've encountered many times in my studies of these subjects is how common it is for non-specialists to confuse natural concretions with human-made objects. From what I understand, although they had the GPS coordinates for where the original sonar survey was conducted, no one has been able to replicate their sonar images or find the structures they claim to have discovered. This was explained away as the result of shifting sand burying the structures. But it could equally be explained as the result of the random nature of the shapes in the images caused by glitches in sonar gear and software used to process the data.
Some of the samples were sent to Manipur and Oxford universities for carbon dating, and the results created more suspicion since some of the objects were found to be 9,000 years old.
He's referring to samples of carbonized wood. One was sent to 2 labs for carbon dating, one in India and one in Germany. The calibrated age, as per the Indian lab, was 9,580 to 9,190 years before present. And as per the German lab, 9,545 to 9,490 years before present. Another sample of carbonized wood was sent to a different lab in India and came back with the date 8,450 years before present. But here's the thing. The wood was not identifiable as a human-made object, nor was it found in a human-made structure. They were just pieces of wood. And since we know that long ago the area was above sea level and probably had trees growing on it, this is not a smoking gun for a human civilization that far back.
The NIOT returned for further investigation in the Gulf from October 2002 to January 2003. During these excavations, the NIOT reported finding 2 paleo-channels flanked by rectangular and square basement-like features. Artifacts were recovered by means of dredging, including pottery shards, microliths, wattle and daub remains, and hearth materials.
According to Dr. Bardinarian, chief scientist of the team from NIOT, fired pottery pieces were found that were carbon dated to 31,000 years before the present, which would make it the earliest fired pottery ever found in the world. He wrote in an internet article that his discovery was more likely the real Dwarka, and not the one found by S.R. Rao, saying, "Probably the metropolis in the Gulf of Cambay could be the Dwarka city of Mahabharata fame. There are two major problems, however, with his conclusion that other scientists and scholars have pointed out. First, the manner in which the artifacts were recovered from the sea floor was done through dredging. This method could easily allow errant artifacts to be collected, along with those that truly correlate with the site. Not to mention the fact that it makes analysis of the stratification of the site virtually impossible. The supposed artifacts recovered could have been carried there over the millennia with the tides and currents from other nearby places. There's no way of knowing whether these objects were buried in situ, or eroded from coastal or fluvial deposits and transported elsewhere and reburied by tidal currents. Keep in mind, too, that extensive nautical traffic traversed the Gulf of Cambay over the millennia, and surely numerous vessels have sunk. As these ships disintegrated over time under the water, their contents would have released considerable numbers of artifacts of various types and time periods. Second, the NIO team has been accused of interpreting geofacts as artifacts. Dr. Neil Kenyon, a marine geologist, said, quote, "The materials dredged up from the Cambay site and presented as human artifacts all appear to be well-known natural geological features and fossils, familiar to any sedimentary geologist who has worked in the Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, or Arabian Gulf region," unquote. Marine geoarchaeologist Dr. Nicholas Fleming said, quote, "My immediate impression was that these objects are mostly natural rolled pebbles, concretions, and other normal seabed phenomena. If I had found material like this on the seafloor, I would not have expected the public to believe that they are artifacts," unquote.